Jiaoqiu is Phantylia version 2.0, and it's not a clickbait. In the newest Honkai Star Rail trailer released by Hoyo, the topic of the video was about Jiaoqiu cooking for Bailu and Susang, but there are hidden frames telling us that the Jiaoqiu that appeared in the trailer is actually Phantylia in disguise. For a quick recap, Phantylia was a heliobus who orchestrated the 1.2 Stellaron event with the Preceptors and the new Sanctus Medicus. As a heliobus, she is effectively just a blob of flame with no corporeal form. As a result, she could easily disguise herself as Tinglin to sneak onto Luofu and harvest the fruit of the arbor once the Stellaron had revived it. At the end of 1.2, she was defeated by the combined force of the Stellaron Hunters, the Astral Express, and the Luofu Authority, but as a heliobus with no body, she could not die by sheer brute force and could return any time she wished. Which is apparently now as Jiaoqiu. In between the innocuous clips of Jiaoqiu cooking for Susang and Bailu, there are disconcerting hidden frames telling us that the Jiaoqiu we see in the trailer is actually Phantylia. At the very start of the trailer, when Jiaoqiu was baking a certain dish, we were shown seal and bronze scripts carefully hidden in between the flashing animation. In order, the seal scripts shown are oneself, again, drag/haul/join together, and oneself. And right after oneself, we were shown a quick flash of a broken lotus, which is probably some creative form of the character for flower, before the broken lotus became a whole lotus in the oven. Credit to Shin for the help with the seal script. My eyes were legit dying from the bronze and seal scripts. But that's not all. In the next sequence, in Jiaoqiu's eyes, we were shown his true desire, the fruit on the arbor, which was exactly what Phantylia wanted last time. It was also not a coincidence that in the next frame, Jiaoqiu was also shown headless, exactly like what happened to Tinglin in the 1.2 Trailblazer quest. And of course, all the signs that this Jiaoqiu is Phantylia doesn't stop there. During the rapid flashing in the fight against the Borisin, the symbols that represent Jiaoqiu, the hearts and the eyes, are identical to those of Cirrus and Tail in Huohua's trailer. As the 5 eyes of the Heliobi surround Jiaoqiu, he used his slashing fan attack, which was another move that boss Phantylia does in game. Of course, Hoyo had decided to not be subtle about this and outright added a frame of Jiaoqiu being a literal 6-tailed fox, with each tail represented by the lotus flower, exactly the same style they used for Phantylia. However, the least subtle part of the trailer is actually this hidden frame of Jiaoqiu organizing the feast for Susang and Bailu. In the full picture, Jiaoqiu was shown sitting right in front of a dripping black sun, a black sun that looks exactly the same as the one representing Flint and the forge in Yunli's splash art. Speaking of Yunli, in Yunli's trailer, the heliobus in the sword Yunli was melting also had the exact same combo of eye, lotus, and tail symbolism as Phantylia and Jiaoqiu. Even better, the sword heliobus even had a unique symbol that didn't appear anywhere else. I should know I went crazy trying to look for its source. But that was up until now, when Jiaoqiu trailer dropped and the same symbol appeared again as Jiaoqiu's flame, and turned out it's a stylized firefox. Oh, and did I mention that Jiaoqiu's true form, the firefox with shining red eyes, was shown as preparing to feast on a dish of heliobi, exactly what Cirrus was trying to do in the Fox Garden event to power herself up. So yeah, Hoyo is not going for the subtle route with this one. I suspect that this dinner was a bait all along and both Bailu and Susang got possessed afterwards. Which is just in with Sushang's usual luck, really. But what's Phantylia Jiaoqiu's goal for Luofu this time? Well, if we look closely at the dishes, we can see that the dishes Jiaoqiu cook actually represent his targeted food. Like you can see this dish here is the arbor deer, decorated with arbor branches and an actual apple branch on the dinner table. And this dish here is fried gorilla, also blessed by the abundance. The second dish here is Bailu's baby ribs with fried rice, mushroom, and a side of heliobi. So the next target is Bailu and the heliobi population on Luofu, the ones that we all conveniently jailed in one place for him during the Fox Garden event. Overall, you can say that Phantylia really lives up to the glutton characteristics that both heliobi and Ouroboros share. But of course, like a true glutton, Phantylia doesn't stop at just abundance gorilla, arbor fruit, Bailu's baby ribs, and a basket of heliobi. He also wants to eat Borisin too. As you can see here in these frames where Jiaoqiu had a flashback to the fight against the Borisin right as Bailu asked him what was special about these steaks. And then later on in the video, we were directly shown said Borisin being grilled and thrown into the mala pot. So yeah, you have one guess as to what kind of meat Jiaoqiu was cooking for Bailu and Susang. Which is why the whole trailer is so reminiscent of Hannibal's cooking scenes, with special focus on the meat, of course. From the way the Jiaoqiu in the trailer subtly fed his guests the meat to the way those meats are actually made out as enemies, it is a very obvious Hannibal reference that many people in both global and Chinese social media have caught on. And of course, when you speak of Hannibal Lecter, you must speak of one of the original novels, The Red Dragon. In the Red Dragon novel, the primary antagonist is driven by an obsession with the Great Red Dragon and the Woman Clothed in Sun, a painting of William Blake. He believes that the Red Dragon is his stronger alternate personality, and his murders will help him to transform into the Red Dragon. Near the end of the novel, he attempts to break away from his beliefs by going to the Brooklyn Museum and eating the original painting itself. Thus, it is no coincidence that in the March training event, we were shown a scene of Jiaoqiu asking around the Alchemy Commission for information about the Crimson Dragon, which he believed to be a secret herb that can cure all. So the final scene here of 2.4? Phantylia's true goal this time might be to eat Huolai and the Crimson Dragon. But what, or more exactly, who, is the Crimson Dragon? Despite what she claims, Lingsha is not actually a complete Crimson Dragon because her transformation is unfinished, as you can clearly see in her design. The real Crimson Dragon is just Dan Feng haha. But that's another video for another day. All in all, we have reasonably solid evidence telling us that the current Jiaoqiu in the trailer was possessed by Phantylia. But when did he get possessed? Well, in my opinion, there are two possible time frames for the possessions. The first possible time frame was before the 2.4 Trailblazer quest. According to Fei Xiao, similar to the Stellaron plot on Luofu, something else also did happen on the Yaoqing, which prompted Fei Xiao to send people to investigate Borisin's activities. It was from this investigation that she discovered that Mangas, or Phantylia, was gathering Borisin to her plot by claiming to be an emissary of Yaoshi, which is actually a blatant lie, but the Borisin didn't know that. As such, we can reasonably deduce that the attack on Yaoqing had something to do with the Borisin, and, like the Stellaron plot on Luofu, Phantylia was likely involved, such as, say, possessing another Foxian, Jiaoqiu, who is incidentally one of the highest-ranked person on Yaoqing and has access to many secrets of the Xianzhou Alliance. The second possible time frame was after the Huolai cutscene in 2.4. Effectively, at the end, Huolai wanted Jiaoqiu to do something for him, and Phantylia might have taken control after that scene if Phantylia was possessing one of the prison break crews on the Borisin side. However, I rate this second possibility at a lower confidence level than the first time frame, simply because it doesn't look like Huolai and Phantylia share the same goal. If anything else, Phantylia would only be interested in eating Huolai, for their political goals are diametrically oppositional. Lord Ravager Phantylia only wants to use the Borisin for the sake of destruction. And Huolai is an actual Yaoshi follower who could have easily turned the Borisin against Phantylia, the fake Yaoshi emanator. In any case, whether which time frame is the correct one, it is quite obvious that the current Jiaoqiu depicted in the trailer has been possessed by Phantylia. The funny story here is that Jiaoqiu trailer was released just one day before the Hungry Ghost Festival in China, which is the occasion where people believe the gate of hell will open again for spirits and ghosts to possess people. This is probably planned by Hoyo, and it's admittedly pretty funny timing. The last thing I would like to mention that the plot of Phantylia returning has been hinted at many times since 1.2. First in Dan Heng trailer, where Phantylia asked Dan Heng if he thought he would have a choice next time. Next time means she's coming back. The second time Hoyo spoiled us this plot was in the Qishi video with Fu Xian last year. In a split second near the end of the video, right before she opened her eyes, Fu Xian got a prophetic vision of Aurora coming down to the Luofu's mountain area. The mountain area is actually beneath the Scale Gorge and the location of the Ten Lords Jail, while Aurora here obviously stood for the rising sun, or, in other words, the rising Heliobus. It's very the great red dragon and the woman clothed in sun, with the woman being Phantylia the Heliobus and the great red dragon being her target dinner, the crimson dragon. The funny story is that Lality and I noticed this frame last year right as the video was released, but we didn't understand what it meant up until now, LMAO. Anyway, if you want to know more about the Crimson Dragon plot, please subscribe and stay tuned for the part 2 and 3 of the Sanctus Medica series.